All right, super fired up about my next guest here on the show because he's a super funny guy and he's got a brand new special coming out here. It's called Wolf Pup, and it debuts on Thursday, June the 27th on 800 Pound Gorilla's YouTube channel. And 800 Pound Gorilla has been a great production company for a lot of comedians. We've helped promote them before, and they just have really, really funny people. They care about comedy, so this, I'm sure, is going to be an awesome one. He's had a ton of really funny videos. If you haven't seen them on social media, I encourage you to go find them. Nick Callas joining us here on the show today.
Hey,
Nick, how we doing?
I'm doing great. That was extremely kind and lovely of you. Thank you so much. Everything you said is true, man. 800 Pound is awesome. They really do. And people say this. You hear interviews and people are like, oh, they're comedy first. They really care about the art. It's never true. 800 Pound, and I'll use names: Marcus, Joey, Anthony. Like, these people really are just dudes that like comedy a lot, and then also are like very much consummate professionals who know film and know production really well. So like, working with them is awesome. We shot my special in Austin, Texas at the Creek in the Cave in September, which is crazy. And it was just a weekend. It was just like a blast. It just felt like hanging out with the boys and like doing comedy at night. It was great.
How'd you come to the title Wolf Pup?
Short answer is that, little guy, but the long answer is when I was a kid, I wanted to draw comic books. It was the only thing I wanted to do for
Cool.
the first like 17 years of my life.
Yeah.
And I had like come up with this superhero character, and this was his symbol, and I was drawing it in notebooks and stuff for over a decade. And then as I was developing as a comic, I completely let drawing take a back seat. And I had, for the better part of the year prior to shooting this special, I was doing a lot of material. I was single at the time. I was talking about what it feels like to be a single guy, and how you kind of have to, there's that old adage of there's two wolves in you, and the one that wins is the one you feed. And it was sort of a metaphor for, wanting to be a good guy, and then also having these like, arguably toxically masculine, like just influences and stuff like that. And so I had this one bit where I was talking about how I was in a relationship and then became single again, and it felt like I had a wolf in me all of a sudden. And there was this big act out in it, and that theme started to take over my act for a year. And then I cut that bit. I cut that bit from the show, and it's not even in the special. The whole show has that theme, but the bit that the special is named after is not in the special. I didn't even do it at the shows. It weirdly became more obvious than the stuff that I thought that was more incisive that was in the act. So it was ironic. But yeah, I've also, short answer to actually answer your question, I like wolves. I've always identified with wolves like an absolute cliche tool of a white guy, but I do.
So I was going to get into this much later in the conversation, but it opens up a door. So hopefully I'm not too early in this, but you have spoken about how you feel like you're the most insecure guy in the world, and that it's kind of interesting to balance that. You feel like at least at some point in your life, there was a wolf inside of you, and you identify so much with wolves, who are the ultimate alphas. You would never associate insecurity with wolves. And then you also say like you have that part of your personality. So how do those two things, I guess, conflict a lot?
All day, every day. What you should do is you should boot me from the Zoom and interview my girlfriend. She'll go, oh, Nick Callas, insecure? What else? That's all. Oh my God, man. Look, and the reason I am willing to like talk about this, because it's not something, I'm not proud of it. I'm embarrassed, frankly. Like I think that so much of my artistry, my comedy, my general way of be in the world is, motivated by wanting to manifest the guy that I wanted to be growing up, right? And I think everybody is doing that to some degree. You're designing an avatar and then you're trying to, play as them. But I think that on a good day, my choices and my comedy and everything comes from a really wonderful place of like love and happiness. But I think that if that tank isn't available, it also comes from like kind of the almost exactly the same place, but it's fear. What I want to be and what I want to give people and show people comedically is based in how I want to see myself a lot of the time. And I think that if it isn't coming from seeing myself that way, it's coming from being scared that I'm not that way. So the result is the same. The motivator is different. But yeah, I think all the time, man, I'm insecure about everything. I think I'm just highly adept at like coping with it, and I've made it my whole life. And so because I'm like so self-aware, it's less of this big secret that creeps up on me as opposed to this thing that I'm just like kind of friends with at this point.
It's super interesting because it makes your stand-up really interesting and fun, but also makes your interviews really insightful. A lot of people lack a certain self-awareness that you certainly have. And if they do have it, they kind of don't want to go there because it's hard, and you are willing to go there. So, you've done multiple SNL screen tests on the big stage, 8H.
Yeah.
And so when you do those, I mean, this is like SNL, this is New York City, this is the institution. Number one, you go into it. How do you process? Number two, you come out of it and you don't get the part. How do you process when you're talking about the things that you're talking about?
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. The difficulty of things like that for me has been not allowing myself to believe subconsciously a narrative about myself in the world. I think we all ignore a lot of what might be true about our lives and our position and our privilege and our blessings, and because we can get attached to this narrative of God, nothing works out for me, or like nobody ever picks me, or I'm never loved, or I never win, or it's part of the reason you pursue like things greater than yourself is to find in them the identity you want to have, right? Like the reason you go for the big job, or the reason you go for like the pretty girl, the reason you go to the gym is because there's something in there that if you get it and you succeed, you can believe that you're that thing, that you're worthy of that thing, right? So I really dedicated myself to getting on SNL for like 3 years. It was pretty much the only thing I thought about. I mean, I learned or prepared like 50 celebrity impressions, all of which I'm proud of. Like that was a period in my life where I'm really proud of the work that I put in. And it's why ultimately I've been able to just like, whatever, not what was supposed to happen. But I think that my big takeaway from that is I can't let myself take this personally, and that's hard. It's obvious and it should be easy, but it's not, because I think anybody that has anything in their life happen to them, let alone a cool thing like getting to test for SNL, you just can't let it infiltrate your psychology and become something that you think is what always happens to me. I never get the thing. Like that's tough, because in this industry, I mean, you name a show, dude, I've auditioned for it, I've screen tested for it, I've whatever. It's so much rejection, and you hear that about like the entertainment industry a lot. But you have to get to a point where you own the things you can control, and the outcomes are the ones you want because you can control them. And the things that you can't are just forays into like a hypothetical opportunity that might be enjoyable to just do the thing that you're present for. So, not getting on the show a few times, dude, I remember there was one of the tests I said to myself, if I if I don't get into on the show, I'm walking into the woods, and that's it.
Like a true wolf.
Like a true wolf. Yeah. But yeah,
Then hopefully you did not do that.
No, I'm here. Yeah, no, just to like, because, and I've said this before, but like I was born wanting to tell stories, wanting to create things, wanting to tell jokes. I wasn't born wanting to be on SNL. I had to learn that part. So it's not mine. It's not for me. To be entitled to something that specific is insane. The thing that I can be entitled to is to try to, cultivate a base and to try to procure an ability to tell the stories that I want to tell really well. And those are the things that I succeed at, because those are the things that are just up to me. So
these are cool, big ideas that you're talking about. And yes, while you're in an industry that gets rejection far more than most people go, maybe they interview for a job once a year, once every couple of years. They might not get it. They might get it. You're doing it on a daily basis. These are things that a lot of people deal with: rejection, not feeling good enough, not getting the things that they want, not being at the place that they thought they might be when they graduated high school, graduated college. I got to see Dana Carvey do stand-up once, and I was like kind of mesmerized because I always loved Dana Carvey on SNL, his impersonations, etc. You've opened for Dana Carvey. So talking about what you're talking about, SNL as an institution, being great at personalities and impressions like you are, and then seeing Dana in person, what kind of feeling is that?
That was extremely validating, because Dana Carvey, in my limited experience with him, is extremely grounded. And actually, my biggest takeaway from it is that this is a guy who obviously is unbelievably talented with comedy. But more than anything else, really, really likes comedy and really, really likes comedians. Like, he was extremely respectful. I showed up, and another buddy of mine, Abby Roberge, was opening the show as well. And it was just he just did this. He just wanted to sit in the green room and talk to us about working as comics. Like, because we're in the clubs on a nightly basis. He'll do a tour. He'll headline wherever. He's not working 10, 15-minute spots at like the A and B clubs, right? He's got a different experience of comedy. And so he was curious about, like, he was so impressed by us, which is mind-blowing, because you're like, well, you're you. And he just really he was asking, at one point he had like turned to us and asked if we thought something was funny. He was like going to try a new bit that he had just sort of thought of in the car or something like that. And he made me feel like a real comedian. He made me feel like validated in my efforts and that I do that. And when I got off, I think I was doing some bit where I was dancing or something, and he just said something that like was very much in line with his sort of style. He was like, "Oh, like I love like the freedom and the energy of the dance thing," and just really, really cool. But my big takeaway from it was that, oh yeah, that's what you need, because you don't have to care about comedy once the comedy of what you're doing, once you're at that level. But he really, really does. Like, no matter how famous a painter is, you would hope that they just get better with technique as time goes on. And I also thought that, because I've heard his podcast, I've seen him in interviews, he's much, much more grounded in person, which was cool.
Yeah, you can tell that listening to Fly on the Wall podcast, because he oftentimes is so dismissive of his own talent and own success. And he kind of portrays it as like right place, right time. I could do the church lady. It hit, and I was lucky. And it's like, no, man, you are incredibly talented, and it would have worked anywhere, anytime, because you're that type of guy. Yeah. But it was after he left SNL when he says, I left too soon, because it was the height of this power. They gave him a bunch of projects. They didn't really work out. And then I think that humility combined with seeing the top, and then, oh man, it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. Kind of going back to what we were just talking about. Why didn't I get this? He's amazing. Like, he is one of the geniuses ever in terms of impersonations and sketch comedy, etc. And he does not view himself that way at all.
Yeah. And one of the things I love about him is that He's obviously so good at impressions, but what he does with impressions is he takes the piece you recognize and he makes it more specific and even bigger. And then it becomes a character. Like a lot of people's impressions of celebrities are his impression of a celebrity because he finds the ineffable piece and really brings it to the surface. He's like a hip hop, sample producer. Like he knows what you'll respond to. And I don't even know if he knows that and that he's doing that. He's just like a very, really specific talent.
Absolutely. Like Ross Perot is forever known as, can I say something? Can I get a minute? And it's like, who knows if he ever even said that? Exactly. That's Ross Perot through David Carvey's prism, and that's all you would ever remember. It's interesting. I was hearing you do a bit about how dudes need dude friends. And if you're a dude and you don't have dude friends, there's a problem. And you cited something like, if I can't slam your head into your autographed Emmitt Smith jersey, there's a problem with our friendship. And I said, oh, this guy knows sports too. And of course, I'm in the sports world. So how big of a sports fan are you? Because that's a pretty good reference.
I am much less a sports fan than I was growing up because I think once I started to do comedy, my interests shifted. But I'll say this: I pay attention a little bit still to the Lakers. Weirdly, even though I'm from Jersey, we're a Lakers household because we're a Kobe household.
Wow.
Outside of that, I'm kind of out of the loop. I hate to say.
So you guys were a Kobe household because of his greatness in the NBA, or because was he from Southern Jersey outside of Philadelphia?
I don't know. That would be amazing.
You're just a huge Laker guy.
Yeah, we were just. My older brother is a fan of greatness, and that definitely he handed that down to all of us. We just like seeing something done at the best level possible. Like I'm not a big UFC guy either, but if I catch on to the sort of story of what's going on in the UFC, I really can get behind that. Boxing, that's the thing that gets to me most.
Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson coming up in July. Is that something to be fired up about or no?
I mean, it is because it's silly, but I think that's how you got to look at it. No disrespect to anyone, but if Mike Tyson doesn't actually kill Jake Paul, I will not. I'll question my mother's first name. Like, just what the fuck reality are we living in, dude? Where just go. I was trying to explain this to one of my buddies who's like, "No, dude, Paul's nice. Paul's nice." I'm like, "Yeah, dude, Tyson is Tyson." We have an inside joke in my household. My little brother said the other day, just so effusive. He was like, Mike Tyson could kill a buffalo with one punch. That is obviously one of the dumbest things ever said. It also might be true. Dude, go watch Tyson highlight reels. He's not knocking out, kids. He's knocking out a guy who could single-handedly take over Vietnam in cargo pants. You know what I mean? Like he's a killer. He's just not a human being, dude. It doesn't matter how. And then it's not like they took the best boxer. They took Paul, who's nice for a guy who's been boxing for 2 years or whatever. What are we talking about, dude? If Jake Paul wasn't a very famous guy, the fight wouldn't even happen. If Tyson watched Paul box as an unknown, he'd be like, that kid's all right. But Tyson is not all right. Tyson's not even good. Tyson's not even amazing. Tyson is one of those people who coincidentally found out exactly what he was supposed to do with his life. He's Michael Jordan. He's Dave Chappelle. If any of these people did anything else, it would have been a great missed opportunity. Like he was literally born to take people's heads off. Dave Chappelle, if Dave Chappelle worked at Kinko's, you'd be like, oh, that was the funniest guy I've ever seen. You know what I mean? Like he's supposed to box. It's crazy. It's so dumb. It's so stupid.
Baddest man on the planet, Mike Tyson, no doubt about it. A lot of your sketches revolve around school dynamics. And I know that you co-founded American High Shorts, which is over 1 million followers on TikTok. But so much of your comedy seems rooted in those crazy, weird, bizarre dynamics that you grow up going through daily in school. So are those rooted in that you just have tons of memories of high school and middle school, or are you still encountering stuff maybe in comedy that feels a lot like high school because you're still very connected to the stuff that was like real life when we were in, say, ninth grade?
Yeah, that's well observed, man. Definitely. Actually, I think so much of my life feels like school, high school, middle school is like a really good metaphor for it.
Yeah.
And I think when you're going through school as a kid, it feels like you're in a sitcom or in a cartoon, in that every single day you show up to the plot. There's a storyline. It's, am I going to make the basketball team? Am I going to get the girl? Am I going to fail the test? And you have 6 hours or however long the school day is to try and influence that plot. And you try, for me especially, like I tried to be funny all the way through. I tried to make people like me all the way through. And without a doubt, I was getting thrown curveballs that I was not able to handle, because the school's been there 200 years. You're 14 for the first time. And then everybody else is going through the same thing too, but at you. So I think school feels to me like a really good framework for what all of life is, which is you show up, you have goals. They're not going to happen, or they're not going to happen the way you thought they were. But hopefully you're entertaining and kind the whole way through it. To me, it always felt like a television show. And I think that there's so much comedy, both in the experience of being coming of age, and also a framework where you're sitting in an audience surrounded by people who kind of are hungry to see anybody fail in any context or be embarrassing, to take the attention off of the fact that they're feeling insecure. And then you have this like circus ringleader at the front of the classroom. Like it's a bizarre thing. And there's so much that can happen that's hilarious in that context. Like if a kid farts in class, that's the funniest that will be talked about in 10 years. You'll be having beers with your friends 15 years later, and you'll be like, hey, remember when Daniel Khaleesi shit his pants? That kid will be that forever. So every single day.
That name is so specific that clearly did happen, and you're still talking about it 20 years later.
Is that it didn't happen. That's a real guy, and I barely know him. I don't even know him. But yeah, and you know what else, man? I am like obsessed with my experience of middle school and high school, and I think that I still have dreams where I'm. This is a reoccurring theme in my dreams, is that and the dream won't be about this. It's just something I know in the dream. Like the dream could be that like I'm late to dinner with my girlfriend, but I'm upset that there's a science class that I'm going to fail. And if I don't go talk to the teacher and try to get her to, slide me a passing grade, then I'm fucked. And that's just happening in the dream while I'm doing other dream shit. So It had such an effect on me, the anxiety of like performing all the time. And then also the kids that did or didn't like me are still, this chorus in my mind. I think it's formative years. And I think it's definitely influenced me a lot.
It's like the ultimate cruel social experiment that we all have to go through. It's like when you said you're going through developmental evolution, you are going through physical evolution, you're trying to be popular, you're trying to be successful. And it's like all these tests. Will the girl go out with you? Will you make that team? Can you get a good grade in that class? Can you do them all together? Other people seemingly do get those all together.
Yeah.
And you're like, always being tested in terms of your security, and
none of them matter.
And then ultimately, none of them
fail out of high school. You're 14. She not the one. You know what I mean? You get that girl. Who gives a shit? You drop 50 in a high school basketball game. You're not going to the NBA. You're just the best kid in the next 15 miles. Nothing about high school matters at all. Even college barely matters. School is the biggest progenitor of false prophets. I have always felt this way. When I was in 4th grade, whichever kid was the fastest, that kid got pussy for the rest of his life. All you had to do is be a little bit good at sports, have like a cool T-shirt, and then everybody thought you were the man. I watched one kid turn one lie about fingering girls into a lifetime of pussy. It was the most well-played shit I'd ever seen.
It is amazing. If you had any bit of confidence or wisdom at that point in time, you could really map out the rest of your 4 years or 8 years, whatever. But it's like nobody knows anything except the one random kid, as you said, that does one thing cool.
It's the same thing as going back in time and saying you invented the cell phone. It's just one little thing that you can do to convince people, and then they go like, oh well, I feel like we should listen to this guy for the next 12 years. But think about the coolest kids in your high school. Very rarely are they still awesome.
They're never still awesome. They're absolutely never. Your impersonations are awesome. So before we wrap this up, can I get like an Ashton Kutcher talking about how high school is a brutality, maybe about how high school is difficult?
Let's see. Hey there, guys. Ashton Kutcher here. I was in science class, and they set me on fire, okay? They hit me with a Bunsen burner. Burn! I hated high school, but now I'm trying to protect the children. So it's a little ironic.
That's great. You do a lot of good ones, man, but the Kutcher is so good because I don't hear anybody do a Kutcher. So, I mean, you just kind of nailed one that, it's kind of yours. You own it.
Yeah, I think so. That was somebody pointed it out to me. A girl who's an actress now. Her name is Liz Gillies. When we were in like 4th grade, she was like, I think you kind of look like Ashton Kutcher. And I think Cheaper by the Dozen had just come out, and so I'd been watching it at home with my family, and I liked one of the lines in that, and so it just stuck, and it's kind of been in the chamber ever since.
It's so good. So Wolf Pup is going to debut on Thursday, all right, June the 27th. Wolf Pup is his special, Nick Callas' special. It's going to be available on 800 Pound Gorilla's YouTube channel. You can get it there. Also, there is a private watch party going on in Lower Manhattan on that Thursday night. So there might be a few tickets available potentially, so you can check out. Maybe the best thing is to hit you up on Instagram for those tickets, or where can people maybe get those tickets?
You'll find the link just about anywhere you find my name. But Instagram is the best place if you want to hit me up specifically to see what's left at whatever time you hear this. I think as of right now, there was like 18 tickets left. But it's a pretty big event. Sometimes people don't buy tickets, they don't show, whatever. So yeah, try it. It'll be great, man. It's gonna be a cocktail party. We'll be sort of partying for the first hour, maybe a little bit of a live show in there. With some of my comedian friends popping up, and then 3 screens are playing the special. So I think the screenings all start from like 8:15 to like 8:40, and I'll do an intro, and then afterwards we'll shindig.
Man, that is exciting. It is Wolf Pup on Instagram. Check him out at Mr. Nick Callas on YouTube. He's got over 85,000 subs, so that's a great YouTube channel for just constant shorts and really funny stuff. And I mean, I know that you deal with the insecurity that we talked about earlier, but in this moment, you must feel so accomplished and so excited that you're going to stand in front of a packed house and debut an hour-long comedy special produced by an awesome comedy company. That's got to feel really rewarding.
Thank you. It does, and that's a great reminder. It really does. But I still gotta pay my rent, and so nothing means anything. They want your money. They want your money, and no one remembers your greatness. No, I'm fucking with you. It really does, man. I'm very proud of myself, and I'm very excited to share something that I've been kind of building. I think comedy is a lot like the first Iron Man movie. You just gotta make this suit and be prepared to put it on and defend yourself, before everybody comes at you and swallows you whole. And so I feel like, okay, I'm ready. I got my thing. it's good to go, and I'm really proud of it. And I think it's just gonna be fun from here on out because the hard part's over.
That is awesome, man. That's a great metaphor. Check it out. Wolf Pup on Thursday, 800-pound gorilla on YouTube. Nick, awesome stuff, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Seriously, I appreciate it.